I think it's in the later stages in the 1970s that he had his conversations with Bohm and Barfield, which incidentally I got a transcription of and have put up on my website, so I'll put a link up to that if anyone's interested in reading them. But they first made contact through their interest in language, because of course Bohm also tried to devise a language that could capture some of this sense of multi-dimensional flow, as he put it, and interrelationality, folding and unfolding. And Barfield too felt that language is an expression of a dynamic, he referred to language having a kind of soul, a vitality, an intelligence that's alive, that is relating and reacting, that we can become co-authors, co-creators with when we reach for language in all the different ways that we do. And they both also were very fascinated by the role of the imagination. I think Bohm actually preferred words like insight, but nonetheless, the idea that the imagination is a way that shapes the nature of the folding and the unfolding, so that when you get an insight in science, for example, you nudge the unfolding from the implicate order in a slightly different direction. So a new perception becomes possible in the explicate field. And that chimed very much with Barfield's notion of that's what imagination does. That imagination is our relating and interacting with much wider processes than just going on in our own mind, but helping to shape and form and extend and expand them. It's becoming co-creators with ultimately the divine in that Neoplatonic take on things. So much so that they had these conversations, and then there was a Festschrift to Barfield that Bohm contributed to as well. If nothing else, showing how Bohm reached to language and notions of the imagination and insight as absolutely crucial parts of this endeavor as well. That, insight is not just a scientist or someone else having a kind of random good idea, but that is somehow something we can cultivate, we can engage with much more interactively as we try and understand and develop ideas either within science or more generally within life.
Yes, I mean, Bohm was probably his most important theoretical book is Wholeness and the Implicate Order. And there he's very keen to invent new languages to express the fact that all of reality is in a state of flow, that our language normally, and indeed mathematics, tends to chop it up into sort of static bits. But actually there's this underlying flow, which he called the holo movement, or the Rio mode. He had this sense of flow, and tried to make these new words for it. He was very keen on etymology, and I can see that would have made him, him and Barfield must have had a lot of overlap there.
It's very interesting you should mention the word Rio mode, because that comes from the Greek root ruo, which means to flow. But it's very interesting that it's actually the same root that we now have our word ruin. And it feels to me like the word is almost telling us something, that what was perceived as a flow in the ancient world has become to perceive something that's rather static and even in ruins, in terms of reality and life, this reductive, sort of fragmented, as you say, alienated experience of life. And so perhaps recovering the old flow is even in the words that, certainly Barfield and Bohm latched upon, as if, something is trying to make its presence felt in the discussions, that are ongoing.